Samrit Mathur is one of our oldest students. He was a Wushu Central student for 11 years, became one of our instructors, and is now attending Dartmouth University, Ivy League. Amazing, amazing success story. So I'd like to start by asking Samrit, why did you first, back when you were just a child, why did you first start attending classes at Wushu Central Martial Arts? Okay.
Hi, Sifu.
Hello. Hi.
For
Awesome.
me,
So they kind of forced you into it. This wasn't like you saying, "Mom, I want to learn kung fu."
yeah, honestly, my parents had to really push me to go through every single class when I was younger. But I think eventually I really started enjoying each of the classes and enjoyed sort of making relationships with my instructors. And I love their energy, so I started to really enjoy going to class. But definitely initially it took some push.
That's awesome. So do you remember what you found most challenging?
Yeah, I think throughout Wushu, I felt like I was almost like a leaf in the wind. I was just sort of going with the flow. And the moment that really changed that was when I failed my first black belt test. That's when I realized that I really needed to take control of my own Wushu learning. I remember on the way back from failing my test, I cried, but then I quickly got over it and decided that I was going to train really, really hard and pass my next black belt test. But it was definitely challenging to fail the first time.
Yeah, and that's amazing because I know, a lot of times, sometimes people think like, oh, everybody passes all their tests, but you can attest that that's completely not true. It is
Mhm.
it is challenging, and we try to set our students up for to succeed. But I mean, sometimes it doesn't happen. And I do remember, watching you as you were kind of going up through the ranks and thinking, oh, Samrit doesn't put that much effort into it, and then that
Mhm.
totally changed. And now it's really interesting to hear you kind of talk about what prompted that change to happen. So that's super, super
Mhm.
cool. So
Yeah.
you ended up staying with us for 11 years until you went to college. I mean, that's a really long time. So like, why did you stay for so many years?
Yeah, so I chose to stay at Wushu for a number of reasons, but I'd say most importantly, it was the energy and passion that the instructors brought to every student. So obviously, I wasn't the most physically fit student for sure, and I definitely wasn't the most motivated. But none of the instructors gave up on me. They pulled me aside and they really helped me get to my full potential. So I think it was just that passion that the instructors have for helping every kid, regardless of physical ability, that kept me at Wushu for 11 years.
That's amazing. Now you worked really hard for 7 years to earn your black belt. And you talked about how you had to go through some failure to get it. So, I mean, what was it like to finally reach that goal after all those trials and tribulations?
Yeah, I mean, it was extremely satisfying. The day that I passed, I was so happy and so like on top of the world. And honestly, I think that failing the first time made that happiness even more sweet. And honestly, the day after I passed, I sort of had made up my mind that I really wanted to go into teaching and spreading that same passion that my instructors had given me and pass it forward to other students at Wushu who might have felt the same way, less physically capable. So I just, it was a satisfying experience, and it was one where I felt like I wanted to pass it on to others.
Yeah, that's amazing. So, and what a perfect segue into talking about, your experience as a teacher. Like, first of all, like, what did you
Mhm.
like the most about teaching?
So for me, I felt like every week when I would go into teaching, I felt like I had sort of a different task to tackle. There were a lot of students who I felt who reminded me of myself, in that many of them didn't have that same motivation, or were coming into class, all feeling all sorts of ways, all sorts of emotions, but really helping every student achieve their maximum potential in every single class is what really inspired me to keep going and inspired me to really enjoy teaching, is that every single kid has different needs and trying to meet those needs. That was
Yeah,
important for me.
that's amazing.
Mhm.
That's amazing. I think it's a common thread here, right? I mean, when we talk about to parents and students, like, what is it that they love most about the school? And it always comes down to the teachers, right? They just love the instructors
Absolutely.
and how much heart they really put into every single student. And I love that. I'm so proud of our team here. And,
Mhm.
I'm glad that you felt that as a student and then you took that love and then you paid it forward, which is so,
Mhm.
so cool. So cool. So those of you who are just tuning in for the first time here, I'm interviewing Samrit Mathur, he's one of our Wushu Central success stories. He's now attending Dartmouth University, and he was a student with us for 11 years and became one of our instructors for for several years before he went to college. So talking about Dartmouth University, I'm sure a lot of parents are always interested in finding out, like, oh, how do I get my kids into the top universities? They really want their kids to be a success, and they, it occupies a lot of their brain space and a lot of their energy. So, like, for you, having gotten into it, what advice would you give to parents hoping to get their children into a prestigious university?
Yeah, so I would say there's a lot of factors that go into achieving your dream school, but one of the most important factors that I think is often overlooked is having good relationships with other people around you. I mean, that, you might be thinking, oh, well, that probably doesn't have a lot, it's more with grades, but honestly, forming good relationships with your teachers and your coaches and just being a good humanitarian and a good person who's dedicated to your community is really important. And the reason I say that is because these are the people who are going to write you your letters of recommendation. These are the people for whom your essays that are required for college are going to be based off of.
Right.
In fact, the essay that got me into Dartmouth was about my journey in Wushu and how I turned failure into perseverance and strength, and how I learned to pass it forward. So I think it's really important to develop those meaningful stories and build those meaningful relationships. Grades are important, but it's super important that you build these relationships alongside that.
That's amazing. So now
Mhm.
that you have succeeded, right? You've gotten into Dartmouth University. What are like the key character traits or skills that you feel you gained from us from Wushu that you think are really kind of still helping you today?
Yeah, I would say the most important trait that I picked up from Wushu that I apply in college every day is the ability to get back up on my feet when I fall. So obviously Dartmouth is a very competitive college and there's a lot of really smart students. So it's not always easy to get the grades that you want. But through Wushu, you really learn how to get over your obstacles and to land on your feet every time you fall. And
Mhm.
so, I didn't get the best of grades in my first quarter at Dartmouth, but I quickly learned to adapt and, not crash and instead build upon that and learn and grow. And I think that's what Wushu helped me with.
Yeah, for sure. I
Mhm.
imagine a lot of times people, when they get into a very prestigious university, I mean, it's hard, right? The course load is probably very, very difficult. It's a step up from
Definitely.
maybe what you were doing before. And then
Mhm.
to all of a sudden hit that wall, and the people who don't kind of have that sense of grit, I could see them really kind of not making it through. I mean, I don't know what the
Mhm.
what the graduation percentage is in Dartmouth, but I know that when I went to UC Berkeley, like that graduation percentage was really low. Like a lot of people would get in
Yeah.
and they would just not make it through to the end. So it's
Mhm.
amazing that you've taken what you've learned and you're able to really apply that to your everyday life. So that is so cool.